that high-stakes project you're hesitating on, the reason you're stuck probably isn't about ability. It's that you're trying to do the work as yourself. And let's be honest, your current self is likely carrying way too much baggage to move at full speed. Today, we are going to unpack a protocol designed to bypass that ego and unlock your absolute peak performance.
Now, just let that sink in for a second. It's a paradox, right? It cuts against everything we're taught about being authentic. But what if the secret to elite-level output isn't about finding yourself, but about strategically and courageously stepping away from yourself?
And look, this isn't just some motivational poster quote. This is a real, documented psychological phenomenon called the Batman effect. Studies show that when people temporarily step into a character, their ability to focus and just keep going skyrockets. Why? Because the brain stops asking, can I do this? And it starts asking, what would Batman do? That's the shift from self-doubt to objective execution.
So, that's what brings us to the central mystery we're going to unravel today, the Batman paradox. The idea that to become more effective, you might just have to become a little less, well, you. You know, we're all told that authenticity is the key. But what happens when being authentic just means you're authentically tired or scared or totally overwhelmed? It becomes an excuse. It creates what psychologists call cognitive drag. It's like a mental friction that slows you down because you're trying to perform while also managing all of your internal junk. And all that junk, all that baggage, it has a name. It's the root problem that every single high performer has to deal with, whether they know it or not. It's called the personal history anchor.
And what's so interesting here is how this visualizes the two modes we can operate in. On the left, you've got yourself, you're fused with fear, you take every little setback personally, and you spend a ton of energy on what we'll call ego maintenance. It just leads to paralysis. But then, on the right, you've got the archetype, objective, focused on the mission, seeing setbacks as just data, and operating with high neural efficiency. That's the state that leads to actually getting things done.
So what is this anchor, really? Well, it's the cognitive weight of your entire life story. Every mistake you've ever made, every time you felt like a fraud, every ounce of exhaustion you feel right now, you're dragging all of it into your most important work. It's like trying to fly a fighter jet while towing a giant ship. The friction is going to burn you out before you even get off the ground. And let's break it down into its parts because I bet you'll recognize these. The anchor is made of your past failures whispering that you're going to fail again. It's that nagging voice of imposter syndrome. It's the fear of what other people will think. It's your current physical and mental exhaustion. And it's this thing called self-schema constraint. That's the invisible wall of what you believe a person like you is even capable of. Now, here's the crucial part. This has a real neurological consequence. When you work as yourself, any criticism feels like a direct threat to who you are. This triggers the state of social vigilance in your amygdala, your brain's alarm system. And it basically shuts down your logical brain to protect you from the threat of judgment. The result? That feeling of executive paralysis, where you're just staring at the screen, stuck, spending way more energy worrying than actually working. But what if you could just cut the anchor? What if there was a system to consciously recruit a version of you that isn't carrying all that weight? Well, that's exactly what the Internal Archetype protocol is designed to do. This is the direct antidote. It's a 3-step protocol to manually select and activate a psychological persona that's custom-built for whatever you're facing. It's how we stop hoping we feel the right way and start guaranteeing we act the right way. All right, let's look at step 1, the role-specific audit. This is where you become a casting director for your own mind. You break down the task and ask, what kind of character is needed here? You shift your entire mindset from the burden of, I have to write this difficult report, to the professional detachment of, I am recruiting the architect to design this logic. See? You're no longer the one on the hook, you're the director bringing in a specialist. Step 2 is the Totem Activation. This is the symbolic ignition switch for the role. You use a physical object that you associate only with that archetype. Maybe it's a specific watch, a pair of glasses, or even sitting in a different chair. This is based on a real concept called Enclothed Cognition, which basically shows that we subconsciously take on the traits of the tools and clothes we associate with mastery. This physical trigger tells your brain, okay, the ego is benched, the archetype is in the game now. And finally, step 3, the narrative handoff. This is the crucial action that creates that psychological distance. You use third-person speech to formally transfer control. You literally say it out loud. Okay, Mark, the surgeon is taking over now. It might feel a little weird at first, but it is a seriously powerful cognitive trick. It's the difference between trying to feel brave and just playing the role of a brave person until the work is done. So how does this all work? Why is such a simple protocol so incredibly effective? Let's get into the neuroscience, because this isn't just a mind game, it's a genuine brain hack.
This is the key question, right? How does a simple identity shift physically rewire your brain for high performance, like in real time? And this just illustrates the neural shift perfectly. When you're operating as yourself, your medial prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles self-doubt and that what if I fail story, is running hot. But when you activate an archetype, you manually cool that part down. You bench the ego. This frees up a massive amount of energy for your dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the part that handles logic, planning, and execution. You are literally shifting your brain's resources from worrying to working. And the shift isn't just in your head, it's biological. Adopting a high-status archetype can trigger something called the winner effect. Research shows it can actually change your body's chemistry, increasing testosterone while decreasing the stress hormone cortisol. This physically makes you more resilient to pressure and more willing to take smart risks. You're not just pretending to be more confident, your body is actually becoming more confident.
So think of it this way. You're effectively leasing the neural hardware of a more confident person. Your personal self, with all its fears and doubts, gets to sit on the sidelines while your skills and knowledge get the work done through a much more efficient system. This massively reduces the energy you waste on ego maintenance, freeing you up to just focus. Okay, so we've covered the problem, the protocol, and the science behind it. Now let's get practical. Let's move from theory to a direct, actionable blueprint you can start using today, building your own archetype menu. This here is a perfect template. Think about your 3 biggest challenges at work. For deep, focused editing where you need to be precise, maybe you recruit the surgeon, and your totem is a specific pair of reading glasses. For high-stakes decision, maybe it's the general, activated by picking up a heavy, special pen. For just grounding through repetitive work, you could be the athlete, and your totem is putting on a specific playlist and hitting a timer. The key is that the archetype fits the task, and the totem is a physical object that belongs only to that character. And all of this brings us to the ultimate takeaway. This isn't about being fake. It's about a powerful reframing of your identity, where you stop being a prisoner of your moods and start becoming the director of your personas. This is the mantra. This distills the entire protocol into one single actionable command. Before you start a difficult task, your only job is this: choose the character, and then let that character finish the scene. This is the core belief you need to adopt. You are not a single fixed identity. You are a toolkit of personas that can be deployed for success. Remember, you're in a long game of performance, not a constant trial of your identity. Your personal ego is a metabolic expense. It just drains your energy. But an archetype? That's an asset. It focuses your energy. Real productivity isn't about doing more. It's about mastering systems that make focus feel effortless. And that always starts with getting out of your own way.
So here is the final thought I want to leave you with. For your very next task, don't ask yourself if you feel ready. Instead, ask what character is required for the job. Activate your totem, hand over the controls, stop being the protagonist of your own fears, and start being the director of your persona.